So now that we've discussed what an array is, let's go ahead and practice creating some arrays with M&Ms that you have right in front of you. So on your paper, go ahead and write 3 times 4 equals blank, or you can put a box. Okay, are we almost done? Okay, so remind me, which factor is the rows?
The first number.
The first number, the 3. So let's circle the 3 so we remember. Okay. And then how many columns is our array going to have?
4.
4, yes. Okay. So using, go ahead and do that, copy that. Okay, using the M&Ms, we're going to create an array. So how many rows do we need? 3. So then how many M&Ms are we going to use?
3.
Go ahead and use 3 M&Ms and put them in a row. Okay, do the rows go down or across?
Down.
They go down. Okay, alright, looks like mine. Okay, so now how many columns are we gonna put in our array?
4.
4 columns, the box number. So go ahead and add 4 to the top of the array. Should only have 4. Okay, so I see yours looks like, okay. What if I added, just right here. What if I add another x? Why is that wrong?
It's 5.
5.
Because it's 5. We always have to remember, when you make an array, you have to count that very first one, even though it's one of the rows. So yeah, that's 5. Okay, so now what do we need to do?
Fill it in.
We need to fill it in. So use the M&Ms to fill it in. Make sure your arrays are straight and they're not messy. They're following their row in a column. Okay, so your array should look like that. So 3 times 4 equals what?
12.
How do you know that? How did you solve this equation using the array?
There's 12 M&Ms.
There's 12 M&Ms in total, so we can even count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What's another way that you can figure out, instead of counting them individually, what's another way you can solve this equation by looking at this array? What if we count by 3s? So how many are in this row?
3.
Or column? There's 3. How many do we have now?
6.
6. We're skip counting. How many do we have now?
9.
Sorry. How many do we have now?
12.
12. Sorry. Writing backwards is a lot difficult. Okay, let's make another array. Keep that one there. Let's try the problem 6 times 5. Okay, so how many rows do I have here?
6.
6, good. So we circle that first number, because circling means rows. And how many columns?
5.
5.
Okay, so how many M&Ms do we need to make our row?
6.
6.
And is that going to go across or down?
Down.
Okay. so how many columns do I need to make to solve this equation?
5.
5.
5. So go ahead and add your 5. Okay. So now what do we need to do?
Fill it in.
Let's fill it in. Can you check? Okay. So what is 6 times 5 according to our array?
30.
30.
Okay. How did we find the answer? What did we do to solve 6 times 5?
You counted
You count them all.
Okay. And what's another way? What other way could you have instead of counting them all, what other way could you have solved 6 times 5 by using this array?
Count them by 6.
Okay, count them by 6. If you're able to count by 6, then yeah, definitely. Or what else could you do? Count by what?
5.
You can count by 5s too, which is a lot easier than counting by 6. Okay, so where does our answer go?
In the box.
At the end. Okay. Alright, go ahead and put your M&Ms back into the cupcake holder. We're going to do another problem, but a little bit different. So if you don't have space in front, use the back side of your paper, because you're going to need the whole space. Okay, let's do a simple problem. Let's do 5, no, we already did 5. Let's do 2 times 4. Okay, so let's just tell me how many rows and columns.
2 rows.
2 rows, 4 columns.
Okay, so let's use our M&Ms to create them and go ahead and do all the steps we've talked about today. Okay, so how many M&Ms should you have in total?
8.
8. Good. Okay, so don't move your M&Ms. What if we switched the 2 and 4? What would our equation be?
It's 4 times 2.
4 times 2. So why don't you write that underneath? 4 times 2. Okay, so now how many columns would we have in this equation?
4.
Sorry, how many rows?
4.
Yeah, 4.
4.
So you had 4 rows and how many columns?
2.
Before you add the M&Ms, do you think this equation will be different from this one?
No.
Or do you think you'll have the same answer?
Same answer.
Why do you think that?
Because you're just flipping them.
Because you're flipping the number. Let's figure it out. So go ahead and create an array for 4 times 2. So how many? There you go. So how many M&Ms did we have in total?
8.
8. So it's the same. So, like Justo said, the 2 numbers were only flipped. It did not change the total. Okay, how could we change these two equations into a division problem. What could we do? So remember, division problems start with a total. So both of our equations, the totals are 8. So how could we use these equations to make it into a division problem?
8 divided by 4.
Okay, so if we do 8 divided by 4, so let me go ahead and write it. You guys just look over here. Okay, here's 8 divided by 4. So what is the missing number?
2.
2.
Yeah, it's 2. Okay, what's another division problem that we can create using the 2 multiplication problems we used?
8 divided by 2.
8 divided by 2 equals what?
4.
Okay, how do you know so quickly what that number is, what the missing number is, or the answer is for the division problem? What are you using? So think about it. You're using these equations. We're basically using the same numbers, just putting them in a different order. And division problems always start with a total. So how did we know this is 4? What did we do?
Because 4 times 2 equals 8.
8.
Because 4 times 2 equals 8. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And we can also look at it in the way, well, we know that we already used 8. We already used 2 from our multiplication problem. But the only number we haven't used yet is 4. Okay, good. Okay, let's try one more. This time we're going to do 2 multiplication problems like we just did in this one and 2 division problems. And you can use the side of the paper. Let's do 6 times 3. Okay, go ahead and create your array for 6 times 3. You can use the same M&Ms or you can use the ones that are still in there. Okay, once you've finished your array, you can go ahead and count them all up and put your answer at the end. Okay, so what did we get for our answer?
18.
18. Okay. Okay, what would our second multiplication problem be using this same structure or same numbers, same factors? Just remember what we did in the last problem, we just switched it. So what would it be?
3 times 6.
3 times 6. Okay, you do not need to do an array for that one. So what would 3 times 6 be?
18.
18.
Well, how did you know that?
Because it's the same
It's the same.
equation. Just flip.
It's the same equation, it's just flipped. Okay, good. So now let's make our division problem. So we're going to create 2 division problems. So what are our division problems going to start with?
18.
18 because 18 is our what?
Answer.
It's our answer or our
Total number.
our total. So we're going to create 2 division problems using 18 divided by, so that's the very beginning. So for our first one, what could we put next to 18 divided by, what could we put next to it?
6.
Okay, let's do 6. 18 divided by 6 equals what?
3.
It equals 3. How did you know that?
Because 6 times 3 equals 18.
Because 6 times 3 equals 18. Good. So then, for the last division problem, what would that equation be? We already used 18 divided by 6. So what's left?
18 divided by 3.
18 divided by 3. And that equals what?
6.
6. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is on that side of the table, there are different arrays you'll be looking at, and you have to write the 4 problems. So 2 multiplication problems and 2 division problems. For the last one, the 4th paper you'll see, it's going to give you the first equation. You have to create the array and you have to complete the other equations. So we're doing the same thing, 2 multiplication, 2 division. 3 of them will have the array already done for you. And the last one, you have to create the array using the first equation given, which you'll have to actually solve. And then you will complete the rest. And it's already written in that format, so you don't have to worry about writing it out. So you will work in partners. Each of you has to write. So you can either do one person writes for the first one and then another person writes for the second one, or you guys can just take turns writing each equation. And then you can even use different color markers if you like. Any questions? No? Okay, so let's do that.
So there are 3 rows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our first number. And then there are 6 columns. So that's our second number. And then
There's 18 in total.
so that's our answer.
And then you flip it.
And then you start with your total number and you divide it by 6. And your answer is 3.
Then you do the total number again. Then you divide by 3. And the answer is 6.
Okay, so you guys did really good with the group activity. Solving writing the 4 equations, the multiplication and division. What you're gonna do right now independently is you have 50 M&Ms in your little cupcake holder. What you're gonna do is you're gonna create as many problems you can using the amount in there. So for example, knowing that there's 50, what multiplication equation could we already make with it?
5 times 10.
Okay, we can do 5 times 10. So then what would be the second multiplication in that fact family, if we look at it that way? So fact family is the 4 equations. So they have 4 problems, 2 multiplication, 2 division. So if we do 5 times 10, what would the next multiplication problem be?
10 times 5.
And then we would have the 2 division problems. Okay, what's another problem we can use using the 50 M&Ms? You do not have to use all of them.
5 times 5.
Okay, 5 times 5. Ooh, and that one, you already hit 2 of them because it's the same number. Okay, so this is where you're going to just write as many multiplication problems you can and division problems you can using your M&Ms, the M&Ms in front of you. And I want you to try writing the 2 multiplication and the 2 division problems. You may talk to each other. You can check to see if you missed any. Write as many as you can for the next 10 minutes. And then if you like, you can even eat some of them. Okay.
Do you have to use all of them?
No, you don't have to use all of them. You can even take out 2 and then just put 1 row. You just make as many, you can make as many multiplication problems you can and division problems. So there's several you can do. You can do 2 times 3. You can do 4 times 4, 3 times 8. Just know that you only have 50, so you can't do 10 times 10. You won't have enough. Okay, so go ahead and start working on that.